My name is Gladys Goldstein. I'm 39, and I've learned the hard way that the loudest betrayals don't always come with screaming. They come with silence, the kind that settles into your home like dust, the kind that makes you second-guess your own footsteps, like you're the one who doesn't belong. I live in Columbia, South Carolina, and I work maintenance at a distribution plant. It's not a job you brag about at dinner parties, but it's honest. It's hot floors, roaring machines, long shifts, and grease under your nails that never fully comes out. It's also the reason the mortgage gets paid on time and the fridge stays full. For years, I took pride in that. I thought providing was love. I was married to Ethan Reynolds for 5 years. People called us a blended family, the polite term for something that often feels like two lives stitched together with cheap thread. Ethan came with his daughter, Tara, 18, from his first marriage to Lydia Voss. I came with my daughter, Maddie, 16, from my previous marriage. When Ethan and I first got together, I believed we balanced each other. I'm not much for yelling, never have been. I fix things, I plan, I breathe before I speak. Ethan was different, social, charming, the kind of man who could turn a room toward him without trying. When we were new, that energy felt like sunlight. He'd walk into the kitchen, pull me into him from behind, and say, "You work too hard, Gladys. I'm going to make sure you get a soft life from now on." At the time, I believed him. We had routines, grocery runs on Sundays, movie nights where we'd fall asleep halfway through. I'd tighten loose cabinet hinges and patch small cracks in drywall while he planned weekend dinners, talking about the future like it was already written. Even Tara, back then, was tolerable. Not warm, not exactly welcoming, but she wasn't openly hostile. She'd keep her headphones in, answer politely if I spoke first, and disappear into her room. I told myself that was good enough. Teenagers are teenagers. You don't win them over by forcing it. But then something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't announce itself with a slammed door or a shocking confession. It came in pieces, like a puzzle I didn't know I was assembling until I could finally see the picture. Ethan started treating me like background noise. We'd sit down to dinner, and he'd scroll on his phone like the screen was more important than the person who cooked. If I asked how his day went, I'd get a one-word answer. Fine. Busy. Long. Conversation became a chore he wanted to finish quickly, like taking out the trash. At first, I blamed stress. Work, bills, life. Everyone gets tired. I told myself not to be needy, not to make problems. I prided myself on being the steady one. Then the phone habit changed, and I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Locked. Always locked. Face down on the counter. On silent. If it buzzed late, he'd grab it fast, like he was stopping an alarm from waking the entire neighborhood. If I walked into the room, he'd tilt the screen away without thinking, the way people do when they're hiding something instinctively. Once I tried to lighten it with a joke. I said, "What are you doing, running the CIA?" He didn't laugh. He snapped, sharp and defensive, "You're paranoid." The word hit me harder than it should have. Not because I thought I was paranoid, but because I knew I wasn't. That was the first time I felt a real wall go up between us. Solid, invisible, and deliberate. Tara made it worse. By 18, she'd grown into a full-time audience member in her father's life. She always had something to say about how I wasn't her real mom. She'd bring up Lydia like she was some kind of saint. My mom would never do that. My mom always supported Dad. My mom actually understands him. She said those things with a sweetness that wasn't sweet at all, like she wanted them to sting, but wanted plausible deniability if I reacted. And the weirdest part? Ethan used to speak about Lydia like she was a cautionary tale. When we first dated, he told me stories about his first marriage. How Lydia was impulsive, jealous, dramatic. How she'd start fights in public, then cry when people stared. How she'd threaten to leave, just to watch him beg. "She thrives on chaos," he said once, rubbing his face like he was tired just remembering it. I never want that again. I believed him. I saw myself as the calm after the storm, the safe place, the stable home. I didn't realize some people don't want peace. They want excitement. They want adrenaline. They want to feel chased. And when you don't chase them, they call you cold. I didn't confront Ethan. I didn't snoop through his phone. I didn't play detective in my own marriage like I was starring in some low-budget thriller. But I also didn't ignore my instincts. I've seen women destroy themselves trying to pretend everything is fine while everyone else laughs behind their backs. I've watched friends cry in bathrooms over men who insisted, "You're imagining things," while evidence piled up like dirty laundry. So I did what I do best. I got quiet. I started taking notes. Not in a dramatic way, not like a spy. Just observations, patterns. Times he ran out for quick errands that took an hour and a half. Days he dressed nicer for a grocery run. Cologne heavy, hair styled, shirt crisp. Days he came home humming, light as air, like he'd just been filled up somewhere I couldn't reach. And Tara was strange on those days too. Overly cheerful, smirking, watching me like she was waiting for me to react. One afternoon, she walked into the kitchen while I was rinsing dishes and said, out of nowhere, "Dad deserves to be happy." I glanced at her. Who said he isn't? Her smile turned sideways. Just saying, people can't live trapped forever. Trapped. That word kept echoing in my head long after she walked away. Trapped by what? By me? By the life we built? I realized then that I wasn't just being ignored. I was being positioned, painted as the obstacle, the burden, the villain in a story they'd already agreed on. And I refused to be cast in a role without reading the script. After about a month of watching the patterns tighten, I made up my mind. If something was happening, I wanted facts, not suspicion, not a gut feeling. I needed solid proof before I made any moves. So I called a private investigator. Her name was Rachel Rains. A coworker gave me her number in the same hushed way people share the name of a good divorce lawyer, like it's both a secret and a weapon. Rachel had a calm voice, the kind that told me she'd seen too many ugly endings to get emotional about any of them. I met her at a diner off Garner's Ferry Road, the kind of place where the coffee is always a little too strong and no one looks at you twice. I told her I didn't want drama. "I just want the truth," I said. Rachel didn't flinch. "You ready for whatever it is?" I stared down at my hands on the table, hands that had fixed sinks, patched walls, paid bills, held my daughter through nightmares. "I already know something's wrong," I said quietly. "I just want it confirmed so I can move the right way." She nodded, took notes, and told me she'd start within the week. Walking out of that diner, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel panic. I felt steady, because I didn't hire Rachel because I was insecure. I hired her because I respected myself. I had given this family 5 years. I paid the bills. I stayed loyal. I never humiliated Ethan, never raised my voice in ways I couldn't take back. The least I deserved was the truth. Clean, undeniable, documented truth. 2 days after our meeting, Rachel called. "I've started," she said. "And, Gladys, you're going to want to see this in person." We met again at the same diner. She slid a manila envelope across the table like she'd done it 1,000 times. Inside were photos. Ethan and Lydia. Different days, different locations. One at a small cafe off Main Street, sitting close enough to look like a couple who never broke up. Another near a park bench downtown, Lydia's hand on his arm like it belonged there. Then one photo made my stomach tighten into a hard knot. Ethan's car parked outside a motel on Two Notch Road, Lydia's vehicle right beside it. Rachel had timestamps, license plates, the kind of detail you can't explain away with excuses. And then came the part that burned the most. In 2 of the photos, Tara was there, laughing with them at a coffee shop, relaxed, comfortable, like this wasn't scandal, but a family outing. She wasn't just aware, she was participating. I stared at those pictures for a long time, longer than I expected. Not because I was shocked Ethan was cheating, but because I realized how coordinated it was. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. Rachel watched me carefully. "You want me to keep going?" I swallowed, keeping my voice even. "Yes." She paused. "You want to know how far it goes?" "I want to see how bold they get," I said. Driving home, I thought about all the times Ethan had spoken Lydia's name like a warning. Don't ever be like her. I can't do chaos again. He'd built his whole identity around being the man who escaped Lydia, and now he was back with her, dragging his daughter along like a cheerleader. Maybe he didn't escape chaos. Maybe he missed it. That night, I sat on the porch in the dark, listening to the hum of distant traffic, feeling the thick Columbia air press against my skin. My house was quiet, but not peaceful. It felt like a stage right before the curtains rise, too still, too expectant. Ethan came outside later, phone in hand, screen glowing against his face. "You're sitting in the dark," he said, voice sharp. "What's wrong with you?" I didn't look up, just thinking. He lingered, waiting for me to ask where he'd been, who he was texting, why his phone never left his hand anymore. I didn't ask, and I watched his irritation build because my calm wasn't comforting him, it was threatening him. Finally, he muttered, "You're acting weird," and went back inside. A second later, I heard it, his laugh, soft, private, aimed at something on his phone. A sound I'd started to hate. My own phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. "Full documentation tomorrow. He's deep in it, Gladys. Handle it smart." I stared at the words until the screen dimmed. That was the plan. I wasn't going to confront him at midnight. I wasn't going to cry or beg or give Tara a moment she could film and spin into a story where I was the crazy stepmom. I was going to wait. Because people like Ethan can't sit with their victory in silence. They need to announce it. They need to hear themselves say it out loud, like it becomes more real when someone else has to swallow it. The next morning, I clocked in for a long shift. Machines humming, forklifts rolling, sweat on my shirt, the usual noise. But underneath it, I felt it, the countdown. Ethan was going to talk soon. And when he did, I'd be ready, not with screams, with paperwork, with boundaries, with the kind of calm that scares guilty people more than anger ever could. The morning Ethan decided to confess, the house felt different. Not quiet, heavy, like the walls already knew what he was about to say and were bracing themselves. I'd worked a 14-hour shift the night before. My body ached in that deep, familiar way that comes from doing physical work for too long, but my mind was sharp, too sharp. I showered, pulled on a clean shirt, and walked into the kitchen just after 9. The smell of coffee hung in the air, bitter and strong. Ethan was already seated at the table. He was dressed better than usual for a weekday morning. Pressed jeans, fitted shirt, hair styled carefully. Across from him sat Tara, phone in hand, knee bouncing like she was waiting for a punchline. Maddie was there too, half awake, cereal untouched, eyes flicking between faces like she could feel something bad coming, but didn't know where to land. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice even. No one answered right away. Ethan folded his newspaper too neatly, then looked up at me with an expression I recognized immediately. Prepared, rehearsed. "Gladys," he said, tone falsely gentle, "there's something I need to tell you." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Go ahead." He inhaled like he was about to deliver a speech he'd practiced in the mirror. "I'm going to be out of the house for about a month." I didn't blink. I wrapped my fingers around my coffee mug, feeling the warmth seep into my hands. "A month doing what?" I asked. His chin lifted slightly. "I'm going to stay with Lydia." The room went silent. Maddie's spoon clinked against her bowl. Tara stopped typing and smirked, the corner of her mouth lifting like she was watching a show she already knew the ending to. I studied Ethan's face. He was waiting for something. Shock, anger, disbelief, anything that would let him feel powerful. "You're serious," I said. "Yes," he replied quickly. "And before you start making this into something it's not, I want you to understand. I'm being honest with you." There it was. The shield. I leaned back in my chair. Honest how? "I could have hidden it," he said, spreading his hands like he deserved credit. "But I didn't. I'm telling you up front. That means it's not cheating." For a split second, I thought I'd misheard him. Then the absurdity settled in. "Not cheating," I repeated slowly, "because you told me first." He nodded, earnest. "Exactly. I'm choosing transparency. You can't accuse me of betrayal when I'm being open about my intentions." Tara snorted softly, not even trying to hide her amusement. I looked at Ethan and saw something I hadn't fully noticed before. Not guilt, not shame. Entitlement. "You're leaving our home," I said calmly, "to live with your ex-wife for a month." "Yes. And you expect me to just, what, applaud your honesty?" "I expect you not to overreact," he snapped, irritation slipping through the cracks. "I need space. I need to reconnect with my past and figure things out." Before I could respond, Tara leaned forward. "Mom has a right to be happy," she said loudly, eyes fixed on me. "You don't own him. He's not your property." I turned my head toward her slowly. "Nobody said he was." She crossed her arms. "Then stop acting like you control everything. He's free to do what he wants." "And I'm free to respond," I said. Tara rolled her eyes. "You should actually be proud of him. Most people would sneak around. At least he's honest." Maddie looked between us, confusion written all over her face. "Dad, you're really leaving for a month?" she asked quietly. Ethan softened instantly, for her. "Yes, sweetie," he said. "It's temporary. I just need space." Maddie hesitated. Maybe it's good if everyone cools off." It wasn't agreement. It was fear. Tara pounced on it. "See?" she said sharply. "Even Maddie gets it. You're the only one making this dramatic, Gladys." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Let me make sure I understand," I said. "You're leaving to live with Lydia for 30 days, and you believe telling me ahead of time makes it acceptable." Ethan crossed his arms. "I believe honesty matters." I nodded once. "It does." His posture relaxed slightly, like he thought he'd won a point. "Which is why," I continued, "if you walk out that door, it'll be under a formal 30-day separation agreement." The word formal snapped the room back into focus. Ethan frowned. "What?" "Legal," I said. "Written, signed." Tara scoffed. "That's controlling." I looked at her, my voice calm and clear. "No, That's called boundaries, something you'll understand one day when you're paying your own bills. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. I can't believe you'd treat me like a stranger after everything I've done for this family. I raised an eyebrow. You're the one packing a bag for your ex. You don't get to play the victim here. His face reddened. You're so cold. Honesty doesn't erase betrayal, I replied. If you go fully. No shared finances, no access to joint accounts, no pretending you're married while living like you're single. Silence pressed in around us. Tara stared at me like I'd insulted her personally. Maddie stared down at the table. Ethan stood up abruptly. Fine, do whatever you want. He grabbed his phone and walked out of the kitchen. Tara followed, but not before throwing me a smug look. You're going to regret treating him like that. When they were gone, Maddie finally looked up. Mom, she asked softly, what just happened? I exhaled slowly. Your dad decided to make his own rules. I'm just making sure I have mine. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A coworker sent me a screenshot. Tara had posted a photo of herself and Ethan smiling at the breakfast table, captioned, Real family, sticks together. No names, no context. But it didn't need either. I set my phone down, wiped the counter, and grabbed my keys. My next stop wasn't home. It was my lawyer's office. Mr. Alvarez didn't waste time. I sat across from his desk while he typed up the separation agreement. Clear, clean, and unambiguous. 30 days. Temporary exclusive possession of the house. No financial support. No access to shared funds. Vehicles titled in my name stayed with me. Each party paid their own way. You sure about this? He asked. Absolutely, I said. He asked for independence. I'm just honoring it. When I got home, Ethan's car was in the driveway. Trunk open, bags stacked beside it. Inside, the atmosphere was staged. Ethan stood in the living room, arms crossed. Tara lounged on the couch, phone aimed just enough to catch reactions. You actually went to a lawyer? Ethan asked. Yes, he scoffed. You're ridiculous. You wanted honesty, I said. This is mine. Tara laughed. He's bluffing, Dad. Don't even read it. Ethan snatched the pen and signed without skimming a single page. There, he said, shoving it back at me. Happy? I nodded. Very. As they finished packing, laughing and filming like it was a road trip, I sat at the kitchen table making my own list. What to secure, what to separate, what to lock down. They thought the hard part was over. They were wrong. The hard part, for them, was just beginning. The first night after Ethan left, the house didn't feel empty. It felt reclaimed. No buzzing phone. No laughter drifting from a screen that wasn't meant for me. No tension coiled in the air, waiting for the next comment or dismissal. Just stillness. Real stillness. I slept better than I had in months. By morning, I was already moving. I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote everything down. Accounts, assets, passwords, titles. Not because I was angry, because anger clouds judgment, and I needed mine clear. First came the vehicles. Both cars were in my name. Ethan's sedan and Tara's hatchback. I'd bought them, insured them, maintained them. Neither had ever made a payment beyond gas and attitude. I called a local buyer and scheduled a pickup for the end of the week. Clean, legal, no drama. That night, Ethan's sedan was parked on a public street near Lydia's place. I had the spare key. I had the title. I authorized a tow with proof of ownership and left the receipt tucked under the wiper like a quiet punctuation mark. By Friday, both cars were gone. Next came the bank. I transferred everything but a few $100s out of the joint account. I didn't empty it completely. No one could accuse me of leaving them stranded. I left just enough to cover groceries and pride. Then I changed every password. After that, I called the phone company. Every line under my name, except mine and Maddie's, was shut off. Ethan and Tara could open their own plans. Independence cuts both ways. By the time I finished, my hands were steady. At work, the long shifts helped. 14 hours on the floor leaves little room for spiraling. But by day 5, the fallout began. My phone started ringing nonstop. Unknown numbers. Missed calls stacking up like a bad debt. I let them go to voicemail. By lunch, curiosity got the better of me. Gladys, what the hell did you do? Ethan's voice cracked through the speaker. My cards are being declined everywhere. Then Tara. You're petty, she snapped. You think this makes you look strong. You're just proving why Dad left you. I deleted both messages. I texted once, and only once. You asked for separation. This is what you signed. After that, I stopped responding entirely. I wanted everything documented, every word, every escalation. Midway through the second week, it escalated. It was a Thursday night, almost 10. I was sitting on the couch reviewing paperwork when I heard an engine rev outside. I looked through the window. Lydia's new boyfriend, Marcus, had parked across the street. He slammed his door and started toward my house like he owned it. He didn't bother with pleasantries. "You think you can screw over my family?" he yelled, pounding on the door. "Come out here." I didn't move. I turned on the porch light and spoke through the door. "You're trespassing. Leave." He hit the door harder. "You got no right taking their money." I pulled out my phone, hit record, and dialed non-emergency. "This is Gladys Goldstein," I said calmly. "I have a man banging on my door. I'm recording." Marcus paced, yelling louder, trying to provoke me. Neighbors started stepping outside. One shouted, "Back off, man!" That rattled him. Police lights appeared minutes later. 2 officers spoke to him, then told him to leave. One came to my door afterward. "You handled that right," he said. He wanted a reaction. I thanked him and emailed the incident number to my lawyer before the door even closed. The next morning, Ethan texted, "You didn't have to call the cops. You made us look crazy." I replied once, "You didn't have to send him to my house." Then I blocked his number. By the end of the second week, I had movers scheduled. I wasn't going to wait for Ethan to change his mind and show up unannounced. The house needed to be secured, physically and emotionally. The movers arrived early Saturday morning. 2 big guys who worked fast and didn't ask questions. I gave them a list, kept coffee on, and stayed out of the way. They were halfway through loading the second truck when I heard shouting. Ethan's voice. "Tara's." I stepped onto the porch just as Lydia's truck screeched to a stop. Tara jumped out first, phone already recording. "You can't do this," she screamed. "That's our stuff." The movers froze, looking at me. "Keep working," I said calmly. Tara stormed up the driveway, trying to shove past one of them. "Get out of my way!" He held up a hand. "Ma'am, we're under instructions from Ms. Goldstein." "That's my table!" Tara shrieked. "You're stealing from me." "I bought it," I said evenly. "Your father signed an agreement, giving me temporary possession of the house and contents for 30 days. Ethan was red-faced, furious. "You think this makes you powerful?" he yelled. "Selling everything like some kind of tyrant?" "It's called ownership," I replied. "You signed for independence. This is what it looks like." Neighbors gathered at the sidewalk. One of them, Mr. Price, murmured, "You should calm down." Tara spun on him. "Mind your business." The movers kept loading. Ethan glared at me. "You're heartless. You'll regret doing this to your family." "My family didn't walk out," I said quietly. "You did." That shut him up. Tara's face twisted. Not sadness, just rage. "You're going to pay for this," she screamed, then stormed back to the truck. They left in a cloud of dust. The movers exchanged a look like they'd just finished filming a reality show. "You good?" one asked. "Finish up," I said. "I'll handle the rest." That week, Tara tried a new angle. She called Maddie. I overheard from the hallway. "I'm not getting involved," Maddie said firmly. "No. I saw the video of you screaming at Mom. That's not her fault." When she hung up, she looked shaken, but resolute. "She's trying to make me talk to you," Maddie said. "Says you're ruining her future." I put my hand on her shoulder. "You don't owe them anything." A few days later, Ethan showed up again, with a woman holding a Bible. "We just want to talk about forgiveness," the woman said gently. I shook my head. "This isn't your fight." Ethan snapped. "You're twisting everything. You're unforgiving." "You can't break something," I said calmly, "then blame me for not rebuilding it." They left. Court came fast. The judge reviewed the evidence, photos, dates, the motel, the incident report. "This is an adultery case," he said plainly. "Spousal support is denied." "Gavel down." In the parking lot, Ethan hissed, "You think this is over?" "It already is," I replied. A week later, word got around that Ethan and Tara had moved in with Lydia full-time. Police had been called once already for yelling. None of it surprised me. I didn't celebrate. I closed the last folder, locked it away, and breathed. Because the chaos was no longer in my house. And for the first time in years, neither was the noise. The house didn't echo anymore. After the movers left, the silence wasn't hollow. It was deliberate. Like every unnecessary thing had finally been stripped away, leaving only what mattered. I walked through each room slowly, checking locks, windows, corners. Not out of fear, out of closure. I stayed another week to finish paperwork and tie off loose ends. I didn't rush. Rushing leads to mistakes, and I was done paying for other people's impulsive choices. That was when Ethan tried to rewrite the story. A coworker sent me a link during lunch. "You might want to see this," the message read. The thumbnail showed Ethan sitting on a couch, hair perfectly styled, soft lighting washing out the tension in his face. The title said, "Taking Accountability." I watched exactly 45 seconds. Long enough to see the performance begin. "I made mistakes," he said, voice trembling on cue. "I wasn't perfect. but no one is. I just hope people remember that I'm human. Then my name. Gladys is a good woman, he added, pausing just long enough to sound sincere. I just wish she could forgive. The comments poured in beneath the video. Sympathy, praise, validation. So brave. Men get mistreated too. She sounds cold. I closed the video without finishing it. Attention was oxygen to Ethan. Always had been. He didn't want accountability. He wanted an audience. I wasn't giving him one. 2 days later, Tara tried her own version. She posted a string of stories, cryptic quotes about narcissists, blurred selfies with captions like, "Healing isn't linear, and some people only love what they can control." I didn't respond. I didn't block. I didn't engage. I let silence do the work. The court finalized everything faster than I expected. The evidence was clean. The agreement was signed. There was nothing left to argue. Ethan forfeited spousal support. Property settled. Lines drawn. When I walked out of Richland County Family Court, the air felt lighter. Not because I'd won, because I was done. That same week, my transfer came through. Houston. Better pay. Shorter shifts. A fresh start that didn't carry the weight of history in every corner. Maddie took the news better than I hoped. "Do we get to start over?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "we do." We packed quietly. No dramatic goodbye. No last look in the rearview mirror. Just boxes, paperwork, and intention. By the time we crossed into Texas, the past felt smaller, still real, but distant. Houston was loud, busy, alive. I took a position at a logistics firm. Maddie started a new school and made friends faster than I ever did. We found a modest house outside the city. Nothing fancy, just peaceful. Months passed. Then one evening, my phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered. "Gladys?" The voice was shaky. "Tara," I said. There was a long pause. "I didn't know who else to call," she whispered. "Dad kicked me out. Lydia said I made my bed." I leaned back in my chair. "And Marcus?" I asked. "He left," she said, breaking. "Said it wasn't his problem." Silence stretched between us. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. I need help. Money. Somewhere to stay. Anything." I closed my eyes. Not because I was angry. Because I understood exactly what this moment was. "Tara," I said calmly, "I'm sorry you're scared. Truly. But every choice has a cost." She cried harder. "So you won't help me?" "I can't," I replied. "Not because I hate you, but because you need to understand where your choices lead." She was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, "Okay." The call ended. The next morning, I took Maddie out for breakfast. She laughed more now, lighter, free. And as I watched her smile, I knew something for certain. Peace isn't revenge. It's what you earn when you finally stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. Some people only learn when they lose the person who kept them steady. And when that happens, you don't go back. You keep walking. The call with Tara stayed with me longer than I expected. Not like a wound, more like a scar you press on just to remind yourself it's real. I didn't replay it obsessively. I didn't second-guess my answer. But I did sit with it, quietly, the way you sit with something you've already accepted. People assume refusing help means you're angry. It doesn't. Sometimes it just means you're finished carrying weight that was never yours. Life in Houston settled into a rhythm I hadn't known I was missing. My job was demanding but fair. I worked regular hours now, no 14-hour shifts that left me hollowed out by the time I got home. I came back tired, yes, but not drained in that soul-deep way that comes from being unseen. Maddie thrived. She joined the school's art club, made friends who laughed easily and didn't whisper behind her back. One night, while we were cleaning up dinner, she said something so casually it almost slipped past me. "You're different here, Mom." I looked at her. "Different how?" She shrugged. "Lighter. Like you don't have to be on guard all the time." That was when I realized how much tension I'd normalized back in Colombia. How much of myself I'd compressed just to keep the peace. Peace, it turns out, isn't something you negotiate with people who benefit from your silence. A few weeks later, I heard through an old neighbor that Ethan and Lydia were already unraveling. Police calls, yelling late into the night, Tara bouncing between couches. Nothing dramatic enough to make headlines, just the slow grind of chaos eating itself alive. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt confirmed. Ethan tried one last time. An email came through my work inbox, carefully worded, almost polite. "I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I think we both made mistakes. Maybe we can talk, not to fix things, but to find closure." I read it once. Then I deleted it. Closure doesn't come from conversations with people who rewrite reality to survive it. Closure comes when you stop needing them to understand. On a quiet Saturday morning, Maddie and I sat on the porch with coffee and sketchbooks. The air was warm, the neighborhood peaceful. No one was performing, no one was pretending. That was when it hit me. This was the life I'd been working for all along. Not revenge, not vindication, not watching someone else fall apart. Just space, safety, honesty that didn't come with conditions. People like Ethan mistake calm for weakness. They think because you don't explode, you won't act. They think honesty is a loophole, that announcing betrayal somehow cleans it. It doesn't. All it does is give the other person a choice. And I made mine. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Some people don't lose you because you stop loving them. They lose you because you find